Today I'm going to be talking about whether NCAA athletes should be paid. And I realize this is going to be tough to persuade a bunch of college students who are paying a lot of money to go to school here, but hopefully by the end of the presentation you'll be more open-minded to college athletes being paid. Okay, so I'm going to set it up like this. Imagine you're a full-time student, which is not tough to imagine for all of us. You have a full-time job, maybe a little tougher to imagine, but at the same time, while you're working hard and improving your craft at this job, you're receiving none of the earnings, and your bosses are soaking in the money. This is the case with NCAA athletes. They're working on their craft non-stop, and they aren't receiving any of the benefits. Okay, just a quick question. Do any of you know who the guy on your left is? All right, that's Shabazz Napier. He was on the 2014 University of Connecticut basketball national championship team, and in the middle of their NCAA tournament run, he came out with a statement during a press conference. He said, to be honest, most nights I go to bed starving, where I don't have money to get food and I just go to bed starving, and it's a tough life. And this created a huge stir amongst the national media about whether these athletes are getting money, whether they should get money, because that's not right. He's putting in endless amounts of work and he's going to bed hungry at night, which is not a good thing. On the right, this is a university in, I think, Louisiana, Nicholls State University. I had a friend who went to school here, and after practice, him and everyone on their team would go to a fraternity house, and the fraternity house would cater food for them because they didn't have money to go out to eat after practice. So I don't think that's necessary. That shouldn't be the case where a fraternity house is catering food for athletes after practice because they can't go out and order food. And this next slide is a little bit more from a player's perspective. This is my friend who goes to the University of California, Berkeley. All right, so basically what he said was there are many different reasons why they should be paid. First of all, they were on spring break this past week, and the first thing he said was that 4 or 5 of his teammates couldn't afford to go home and visit their families during spring break, so they had to stay in California. I think that's crazy. I think they're apart from their family for so long during the year. To be able not to afford to get a flight home to see your family on spring break is just absurd to me. So that was one takeaway. And also another takeaway is that, like I said earlier, they can't afford meals, and the scholarship check that they get is just not enough. Okay, so the first reason why I believe college athletes should be paid is they're core members of the university's marketing team. Just how many of you guys became Gator fans before the age of 10 because you attended a football game? Any of you? Okay, so 3 of you. So that's a clear example of how these guys are members of a marketing team. When you first stepped foot into the swamp, that was when you first became a Gator fan, when you attended a football game. So there's a study done, a new study shows that as a school improves on the court or on the field, the application rates improve and the caliber of the students improve. 2 examples of this is Boston College in the 1980s. They had a quarterback named Doug Flutie, and it was called the Flutie effect. He was a great quarterback, and in 2 years following the Flutie game, which was when Boston College played Miami and they scored on a game-winning Hail Mary, application rates went up by 32%, which is a huge, drastic number. Also, Georgetown University in the 1990s, they had a player, Patrick Ewing, who went on to be a great NBA player, and their application rates multiplied by 45% in the years 1990 to 1992. Also, schools like Gonzaga University, how many of you have heard of Gonzaga University? Okay, they receive applicants from all over the world, mostly because of their basketball team. They have a very good basketball program. When I was looking up Gonzaga University, it came up with student reviews, and 4 or 5 student reviews said you should come to the school because the basketball games are crazy. So they get applicants from all over the country, so they don't have to market themselves like the East Coast as much because of their basketball program. Okay, workload. Division I athletes actually spend more time working during the week than your typical 9-to-5 job of a typical American. Athletes spend 43.3 hours a week just to their sport, devoting time to their sport, as compared to the 40 hours of a typical worker. Depending on scheduling, athletes can also miss class several times. Just right now, I don't know if you guys are familiar, the NCAA tournament is going on, and that can affect more than 6 days of classes. So they're expected to be great in the classroom and on the court, yet they're missing class and aren't in the classroom all the time. A good example of this is my friend at the University of California. Every year in March, they go to Vegas for the Pac-12 tournament, which is a mandatory thing. And he's had to take tests on the road. He's had to watch lectures on the road in the middle of, like right after games. And it's a very tough thing to juggle between the sports and the class. All right, so basically NCAA sports is a huge multi-billion-dollar industry. The NCAA produces nearly $11 billion annually. And just in 2014, the University of Alabama, which is a powerhouse, reported over $100 million in athletic revenues, which is more than 25 and 30 NBA teams. And if you think about that, the NBA teams are employing players who are making more than $100 million, some of them on their contracts, yet the players who are mostly making Alabama earn this money aren't receiving any of it. Okay, employees versus playing for school / love of the game. This is an example of a tweet from Jalen Tabor, who plays on the University of Florida football team. And his tweet read, "The SEC made $527.4 million in total revenue and players ain't get a penny. Modern form of slavery." This is an extreme look on it, but this is just an example of how some of the players feel when they're going out and putting their life on the line and not receiving any of the benefits. This is a chart here that shows the revenues versus scholarship expenses for 2015 for the NCAA, the top 10 most powerful schools, which would include Florida, Bama, Texas, Michigan. So for revenues, they're earning about an average of $144 million each year, and they're spending about $12 million average for scholarship expenses. That's over $130 million that is not seen for the players or not seen by anyone. And to be honest, a lot of NCAA schools are running out of ideas of how to use that money. Like, you're starting to spend a lot of money on scoreboard renovations and stuff like that, when we could easily be giving that money to the players. I'm sure these are two players who actually made money off their likeness, which is the NCAA prohibits. On the left is Terrell Pryor from Ohio State. He sold his pants and championship rings to make some money, but a direct quote from Terrell Pryor said, "I did this because my mom had to pay rent, and she had to pay her gas and rent bill, so I had no choice to do it." And I think it's sad that a lot of athletes are facing these situations where ultimately they have no choice but to sell stuff of their own to earn money for their parents. And on the right is a University of Georgia running back, Todd Gurley, who made $400 off selling 80 signatures, and he took the $400. But it's unbelievable to me because on the year that he's received the $400, the University of Georgia Athletic Department made over $100 million in athletic revenue. So he made $400, and he was suspended for 4 games when the University of Georgia Department made $100 million. So I think that's a terrible thing. Okay, my call to action, as you can tell, I think NCAA student athletes should be paid because of all they do for the school, for themselves, and my call to action will basically be to write the NCAA president, Mark Emmert. I listed the address of the office right there. It wasn't easy finding contact information for him directly because he's such an important person, but I strongly encourage you guys, whether you believe they should be paid or not, to have a more open mind and think about some of the numbers I presented and whether they should be paid.